Hello everyone. Today we are going to talk about how to draw hands in different proportions, different positions like open hand, wrist, and different kind of positions to cover all kind of possible scenarios when it comes to drawing hands. So, for example, the most important rule to follow when it comes to drawing hand is actually to break down the hands into different simple pieces. So the way of doing it, of the way I do it, is, or like other artists as well, is actually breaking down the hands into one piece, the first piece, which is actually this one, and the second area, which is this one, starting from this bone to this bone, and the third one is actually this one. So it's gonna create like three kind of like areas divide into constructs your hand. So having that said, we can start practicing. Like for example, we have the first part. Let's say we are drawing this kind of like position, okay, like open hand or like relaxed hand, like leg down to the bottom direction, okay. So we start having our first rectangle light. Sorry, our rectangle. So this which is actually creating this area, and the second rectangle is going to cover this one. Into different pieces, as you see here. And the third one, which is this one, we can consider these area into three, like 1, 2, 3, okay? Not only two, because we have two bones here, as you see, 1 and 2, which actually breaks down this shape to us, for us, into 1, 2, 3. So let's take it this way. So this is number 1, which is this one. Number 2 is going to be this one. I'm just drawing rectangles now to define the proportions of my hands. That's it. And the third one is actually this one. From this bone, as you see, to the end of your finger. Here we go. And here we have our the last finger as well. So now the next, so as you see now, we kind of like have the main proportions of our hand. Now we can move on into adding the proportions of our fingers, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. The way of doing it, we need these lines, because we have 3 lines, as you see here, that actually divides our fingers. So which are going to be here and here as well. We need 3, of course, not 2. Otherwise, we will have 3 fingers instead of 3, instead of 4. So we need 1, 2, and 3. Yeah, these are actually going to be the lines of our fingers. So if I draw now, if I do the same for this one, for this rectangle, I divide into 3, the same as for this one, and the same as for this one. As you see, I kind of like have now the lines that actually defines where my fingers are going to be, like where the first finger starts and where it ends, and so on. So having that said, we can simply now just connect very simple light lines, okay? Don't press too much on your pencil, because you are going to adjust these lines afterwards. Now we are just trying to really define the hand shape of ours, yeah? And the same goes for this one. This we can move it a little bit up. It's okay, like this one. So here we have 2 points. I'm gonna explain it right away. So for this finger, we have one, the first point, which is the bone, and the end of our finger. The first point, which is this one, it always needs to be aligned with these 3 points, because as you see, it doesn't matter how you look at your hand. If you draw a line connecting these lines together, it will end up actually crossing this point, logically speaking. So this is how anatomy works. It doesn't matter how thick or thin your hand is, it's going to be this way. This line, these points, if you draw a line this way, it will automatically cross this line. Yeah. So having that said, if I draw a line here, as you see, it will create this point for me, generate this point for me, which is going to be actually our bone here. And as I said, so the next bone of these fingers, which is actually this way, if I draw a line, again, connect these points together, it will, as you see, it will cross the end of my last finger. Yeah. Having that said, if I do so, it actually creates, as you see, this point for me. Yeah, it's gonna be so it might be here or here or here. It depends on how I am folding my finger, like this or this or this or this. But as you see, the horizontal position is gonna be always the same because it needs to be aligned with these lines. Having that said, let's say our finger is a little bit fold to the so fold this way a little bit, so which means our point is going to be generated this way. So now if I connect, you just remove the old one. Now if I connect these lines, so these 2 points, it actually gives me the feeling that my hand is going this way. Yeah, of course, this way, sorry, different position. So my camera is giving me a hard time to give you the impression, but you kind of like get the idea, so how the hand is going to be. So now we can start defining our the fingers. Yeah, so the fingers are very simple, because as you see, we now have the main shape of our hands. So moving on from this point is not going to be difficult, because now we can add the thickness to our fingers, which are, this is the first one. Yeah, the second one are going to be the 4 fingers, and always be considered that the middle finger is always the longest, as you know, anatomically speaking. Like when it comes to anatomy, the middle finger is always the longest. These are kind of similar, and this is the shortest. Yeah, you have to always consider that. Okay, so we can start by drawing very simple curves which actually represent these bones. Do you see? Because behind behind the skin, we have bones here that actually controls our hands, and you can move it accordingly based on that. And yeah, even these small bones needs to be considered when it comes to drawing. And these also, we have them right here. Just very simple curves, okay, that gives you this impression. Now we can connect these lines together. And the same goes for this one. We said the middle one is the longest, so it needs to be like right maybe here. Yeah, so if this finger ends right here, it means this one is going to be a little bit shorter, just tiny bit. Okay, And here as well, we add some thickness. Now we can adjust the hand as the hand shape. If we feel that it looks a little bit small, we can now adjust it based on the rectangles that we draw at the very beginning, because this actually was these rectangles that we put at the very beginning were super helpful to give us the idea how the hand is going to be. Yeah. So as you see, also following that, if I now mark, yeah, our rectangles, or the rectangles that we started with breaking down our hand, is gonna look something like that actually. As you see, this is how we started. Like, we started with the simple rectangle with the biggest area of our hand, then moving on to the smaller by drawing this rectangle as the second one, this one as the third one, and moving on to the last one. And as you see, it actually gives us the right proportion of any hand position that we want to draw. So the same goes, for example, if we want to draw like this kind of position, okay, like from the top, and I'm looking at the hands really from the left, so all I see is actually this finger and this finger. Okay, the approach is actually pretty much the same. So let's say we want to have the similar proportion or the similar scale of this hand. So I can maybe just start adding 2 lines here, just to keep the second hand that I want to draw in the same scale. Yeah. So having that said, we can start with the wrist. It's gonna be like this, like if we consider doing this, okay, this way. This is actually what I'm trying to represent here. So this is going to be the line of our rectangle, and this is the end of the hand. These 2 lines are going to keep my shape at the similar scale in compared to this one. Okay, so lines are always helpful to keep your shape under control. So now, as I said, all we see is actually this finger, this shape, and these fingers, and this does not change the rule that we talked about here. So we are going to start with the first rectangle, which is starting from here to here, the second rectangle, the third rectangle, and the fourth, including this as well, this area. So having that said, we start very simple, like this way, with a simple rectangle. And this point, actually, as I said, it needs to be aligned with these. Yeah, as you see, 1, 2, 3, and these are the other fingers, but now they are thinner because we are seeing only this from this perspective if we are drawing from the front or left. Yeah, left actually, not front. And now these fingers needs to look something like, no, something like that. So as you see, I am breaking down the hands into different pieces as simple as possible, because if you have your right proportions of your hand right from the beginning, it's gonna be much easier to move on, actually, to add into adding more and more details. So this area is actually going to be this area. Sorry, it's the opposite, but I'm not able to show you on the camera. It's actually something like that. Yeah. But yeah, so moving on. So this area is going to be covering the 4. So what I'm seeing is actually not only this, but actually also this thickness. That's why it's going to be a little bit thick here. So moving on, we have now, let's say this finger can be moved a little bit, like fold this way. Instead of this, we can fold it this way, which puts our point actually this way here, approximately. And these actually are the second bones, which are here. And these are the third, which are these. As you see, now I automatically have actually the right proportions of my hands. So now I can start drawing the first bone, which is actually going to be this one. And my finger is going to be looking this way. This is the second bone. And this is the third bone. And this is the last one. Yeah. So now we start creating the thickness of this finger by deciding, okay, this is okay, this looks fine. We can do it this way. By judging how the thickness of your finger looks good. And of course the other part as well. This is going to be, I think, that way, just a little bit thinner, because we are almost seeing only this finger from this side, okay? Here we go. And now we have this one. Now we start adding some details into our hand, because as you see, we have this kind of line, like it looks like this way. Yeah, as you see here, following this direction. And the same goes for this one. As you see, I now notice that this finger is way too small. So now I can move these bones a little bit up, which is not bad. So we can do that. We can always do that to make the proportions a little bit better. Here we go. This still is a little bit small, so we can maybe just here we go. Now it looks better. So if you notice, like during the drawing, that your fingers are a little bit small or short, you can always adjust them. It's not a big deal actually. You can always do that. As you see, now our hand looks much better because so from this angle, as you see, we see this finger, but these fingers are going to be a little bit visible, okay? So the way of doing it is actually also again simple, by aligning these lines together to give us this feeling that the other fingers are still actually behind. See? So now again, when it comes to like, if we revert what we did, we actually started with simple rectangle, starting from the biggest area of our hand, then the second rectangle, which is actually this one. The third rectangle starting from this bond to this bond, and the third one actually. And this automatically, as you see, it gives us the right proportions of the hand. Because if you look at your hand, it doesn't matter which position, it's actually constructed of way too many rectangles if you broke it down this way. Because if you do so, it's gonna be much easier to really understand how also the shape of your hand. Because as we said before, breaking down the object that you want to draw before starting drawing it makes the whole process much easier, much easier, instead of, like, for example, starting like, for example, with the hand from this finger and moving on up so or down to create these shapes. It's possible. I'm not saying it's not possible. Some artists do that, yeah. But if you are a beginner, you always have, or my recommendation to you is actually to break down your shape or the object, hand or any kind of object, into different simple pieces, because this is way you make your life much easier actually, and you keep your object under control. So let's take another example. Let's say we want to draw this kind of hand position. Okay, so again, we are going to actually use the same method. So we start with defining where my wrist is, this way. So this one. It's gonna be approximately here. As you see, I'm starting with very simple circle that actually defines this bone, so this area, yeah. Here we go. Then we have, so if we have this position, it means the biggest shape that I want to start with is actually this way. This one, the rectangle is 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the biggest shape that I see in my hand. This is what I start with. I look at the biggest part of the object that I want to draw, and I start with it. So having that said, we start constructing our rectangles by doing this way. This line is going to define where the first bone is. This line is going to be defined the second bone and the third one. This way it makes your life much easier to keep your shape under control. Yeah. Here we go. maybe a little bit thinner. Yeah, it looks better now. Now, maybe even a little bit thinner. Now the second rectangle, which is actually going to be this one, because we actually now drew this one, the biggest one, which is this one, and the second one is actually this way, which is going to be directed into the bottom. And now it's going to be a little bit bigger. Just 1 second, please. Here we go. So as you see, now I have this rectangle, this one, and this one crossing this finger as well. So now I start connecting my lines together. Now I'm just showing you the also the method how to draw hands. In a few minutes, we are going to take a real example on my tablet, and we are going to check together how to do that with a real life reference, okay? Now I'm using also my real life reference, but you cannot see it like real time, you know what I mean? So maybe we can take another example afterwards, looking at my tablet at the same time, like drawing one by one. But now, starting with this example, I just wanted to show you the method and how it works. Here we go. And we have the middle finger as well, and the other fingers needs also to be visible, because as you see, I still see them, right, from behind. The others as well, which are going to be in the dark area, the shadow area. As I said before, if you notice that any finger or like shape looks a little bit thin, you can always adjust it, as I did here, real time. Here we go. Now we have it. This one needs to be having this, actually this kind of shape, to make it more realistic, because as you see, it's not bumpy, it's actually going this way, not this way. Yeah, so these kind of details you also need to consider into your drawing. So now again, if we break it down, these lines are aligned, and we have our first rectangle, and the second. Yeah, this is the This is the center point. And we have the second rectangle, including the interior one, because these sits on the back, in the back, and the third one, and the fourth. As you see, I'm just like refreshing your memory, showing you the simple shapes that actually we started with drawing our hands. See? It looks a little bit robotic, I know, but it just like gives you the idea how to really start with drawing hands. It doesn't really matter what kind of shape or hand shape we are talking about. So now we can take like few or look at few examples on my tablet. I have prepared some images as you see here. So we can pick one or two and start using it, because I believe it's going to be your goal to actually start drawing real life hands, which I believe this is a very good practice for you, because let me just make the background dark, because it's causing a little bit of exposure here, as you see, but it's okay, we still can use them. Yeah, for example, let's take which example? Let's take this one. Yeah. We just turn down the brightness of it. There we go. Yeah, now it's better. Sorry, because the white background was causing some exposure. Anyway, yeah, so having this example, we can actually, as I said, let me pick my digital pen. So like we can again break it down into different pieces. Let me pick another pencil. Yeah, this one is okay. This one is better. Here we go. So as you see, if we now break down our hands, so this hand, it includes again so this rectangle, and this one, sorry, and this is the third one, and the fourth. And we have this one as well. Let's create our last finger, and this way as well. And as you see, as I said before, so when we draw lines from the start of these fingers, of these bones, it's gonna actually crosses these points. And the same goes for this one, these bones. If we start to draw a line like this way, as you see, it actually crosses the end of this finger as well. So these rules needs to be followed always. The same goes as well as for this hand. So if I draw, like if I want to break down this hand again into simple pieces, this is the first I start with. The first rectangle, the second rectangle, the fourth rectangle. As you see, it's always colliding, or crossing. No, colliding is actually the right word, with these bones. Yeah, and the last one as well, because As you know, like when it comes to anatomy, we have bones here, and these needs to be always considered, because if we want to like draw the bones in our anatomy, actually this is how the hand looks like. Here we go. A bone, one, and again. And this is the biggest one, and everything is actually connected to it. We have also this one and this one. So when it comes to anatomy, this is actually how it looks like, how our hand looks like. So, and these informations, so when it comes to anatomy, really needs to be followed in drawing. Otherwise, it's gonna be really difficult to make your hand really realistic. A hand or a mouth or a nose, it doesn't matter what are you drawing. It's difficult if you don't follow the anatomy rule. Yeah. For example, yeah, let's erase. Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah. For example, let's take this hand as an example. I'm gonna leave my rectangles as a reference and start with it. Okay, so as you see here, I'm gonna actually put it right here. Yeah, which is okay, a good place here. So as you see, we start with the first rectangle, or before the first rectangle, we can actually start with the pivot of our hand, which is this one. Yeah. Now we have the hand shape. Now we can start with the biggest rectangle, which is actually this one. As you see, I'm moving my hand freely and fast because these rectangles are adjustable afterwards. We can always adjust them. It's not a big deal. The second one, the third one, and the fourth. And as I said, we need these lines, like line 1 and line 2, which is these areas, so that actually create these shapes for us. So if we draw a line like this and this, it's actually very helpful because it gives me the position of this finger. Now again, to this rectangle, as you see, and this one as well. You see, so this line is telling me directly where to stop with my rectangle, which is actually going to be approximately this way. Yeah. So here. And the last one, the last rectangle, which is going to be this one. So this is actually how the hand is gonna look approximately. Okay, approximately. So now, as you see, the hand is not like this, but actually the fingers are kind of open. So we also need to consider that this shape, if we like put all of these fingers into one rectangle, it's gonna look like that, like this. Yeah, because my hand is not having this position but this one, so we also need to consider that as well. So based on that, I need to adjust my lines now, as you see. Here we go. And now I have the approximate proportions of my hand. Now I can deep dive into adding the bones and the positions of my fingers, which are 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. So we need 3 bones, which gives me 1, 2, 3, 4 fingers. Yeah. So it means now let me just reduce the unnecessary lines that we drew at the very beginning. So it means this is my first finger, this is my second finger, which is going to be the longest, by the way, and this is the third, and this is the fourth. See, so rectangle wise, like if I now highlight these rectangles, it actually gives me the proportions of my hand already. See? Here we go. So now it's actually giving me the proportion of my hands. Now I can deep dive into adding the right shapes of my hand. Let me pick another pencil like B12 just to make it a little bit emphasize and clear to see. I'm just sketching, okay? We are not drawing with shading or anything. I'm just explaining how. See, now I'm just like moving my hand freely, just sketching to show the method, how it works. It's not about shading realistic hands here, okay? We have here the bone, and we have the nails as well. As I said, it's just about sketching today. Today is about sketching and just showing the method, how to break down and to draw any hand you want. As you see here, so this is the first rectangle. So breaking down the shape again, just to show you, okay, how it works. This is the second rectangle and the third. Here we go, as you see here. So this is actually the easiest way to break down any hands that you want. So taking another last example in our session today, let's say we want to draw let's take this example, okay? This one is a little bit complicated but doable, so don't be afraid or worried. So as you see now, we start with the first area, which is this one. because sorry, I need to move on like this. Okay, we are doing this one, this hand. Okay, so we start with the first area, which is this one, defining where the pivot of my hand is going to be this way. Then I start drawing my arm, which is this part. Yeah, now as you see, let me just reduce the translucency. Yeah, so now I have, so this one is a little bit difficult, but it's doable. Yeah, why? Because I cannot see all of the hands, but don't worry. So now I need to decide where my first rectangle is. The first rectangle is actually going to be here, and this is the second rectangle. So this hand, because it's actually folded and I cannot see all of it, it's gonna give me a little bit hard time to really understand the shapes behind this folded area. That's why I need to break down what I see only, which is this one and this shape. So we first start with these two shapes. Okay, so having that said, we have one, and we have two. So as you see, doing that, we now have approximately an idea how my hand is going to look, approximately. Okay, yeah, now I can even break it down into further rectangles, which is actually this one, which creates this side for me. Here we go. As you see, now we have these lines. And now we have our finger right here. And as you see, now we need to actually define the direction of these. Let me just change the color. This one is a little bit complicated, so bear with me, okay? We need to define the direction of our nails, which are actually this way. Like this way. So if I try to generate 2 points to follow, these are actually this point and actually this point, as you see. So I'm kind of like trying to figure out a way how to break down. I noticed that this is not visible enough, so let me change the color. Sorry for that. So this way and this. So it automatically gives me this line that I can follow now, because I need something to tell me where my nails are going to end, right? So this way, this point to actually this point. As you see, now I have an approximate idea where my fingers are going to be. They are going to be actually right here, starting here and ending here. See, because without breaking down this hand into this shape, it's gonna be really difficult to draw this one. Yeah, especially if you are a beginner. If you are advanced, you can start any way you want. There is no one written book about it. If you are advanced, you can start any way you want. Okay, but this session is actually meant to be for only beginner and advanced people. Of course, you can also watch. We can learn from each other. So now we have our first finger is going to be right here. I'm just drawing simple oval to give me the idea, okay, where my finger is going to be. This is my second finger to this bone, and this is the second bone. As you see, this line helped me a lot to understand where my nails are going to stop. The same goes for this one. See, so this line also keeping my lines, my fingers lines, horizontal lines into so in the right shape. Without having this shape, it's going to be difficult, kind of difficult, yeah? So now we have the second oval, and we have 1, 2, 3, and 4, because we need to draw 5 fingers, not more, right? So, and we have here we go, and we have the last area is actually this way. This one is gonna look like that. So as you see, I end up into so in this area, which actually gives me the right impression that my hand is actually going to look okay because my proportions are correct. Otherwise, if my proportions are not correct, I might have ended like here or here, okay, for this line. But I ended here. It means my proportions are approximately correct. Yeah, approximately. Now we can start defining the lines, the final lines of our fingers. So as you see, now we have this nail here, right here. And we have the second finger. As you see, here is going to be our nail. And moving on to the next one. And moving on to the last one. This is the pivot. And this is the finger from inside, as you see. Here we go. So as you see now, we kind of like approximately have the main shape of our hand, which actually doesn't look bad. And this hand position was not so easy. It was a little bit difficult because as you see, as you saw, I needed to really hold down for a minute and break down the shape of my hand to really have the right proportions at eventually, you know. Otherwise, your hand might just look a little bit weird and unrealistic. Here we go. It's shading a little bit just to give me this kind of like depth feeling, and the same as for this one, because they are like folded this way, you know. So as you see, here is brighter than here. So again, we are not talking about shading in this session, because we are just talking about how to draw hands in the right way. And as you see now, if I reverse what I just did, we started with the pivot of our hand, which is actually this area, and the arm, which actually creates the first rectangle for me. The second rectangle we draw is actually this one. Which is actually the biggest, the one you see here. Then we broke down this, we added the second one, which is actually the highest point of this rectangle, by having this triangle, not rectangle, but triangle. When I say breaking down the hand into different pieces, simple pieces, it doesn't necessarily mean that it needs to be rectangle. As you see here, I used rectangle, not equal rectangle, triangle, and oval. So that's what I mean by simple shapes, okay? Not necessarily rectangle. So now, again, I added this, again, broke down this rectangle into two to have this point. And again, I connected this point to this point, which actually gave me the line, the defined line of the end of my nails. And the same goes for this one as well. And after that, I start adding my rectangles. So having that said, like if I now break down my whole hand into simple shapes, it's gonna look something like that. And the inside, the interior one, so from the back. As you see here. So we can of course continue with as many examples as we want, but this is not the goal of this session. The goal of this session is just to show you how it works, and mastering this method, you will definitely be able to draw any hand position and proportion that you want, as you see here, because I downloaded this image from internet to show you that there are a lot of variants or possibility of drawing hands, but actually the approach is the same. So once you follow it and understand it, it's gonna be easier, really much easier. You again, if you are like not a beginner but advanced, you can always start as you want. Like for example, if you want to draw this hand, you can really start this way, then this way, and this way, and this way, and the finger as well, and so on and so on. So you can start as you want. It really depends on how you feel comfortable drawing your lines. But if you are a beginner, I recommend you to break down your shape into different pieces, simple pieces, then move on by adding more and more and more details. So yeah, this is for today's session. Please consider subscribing my channel to motivate me and encourage me to create more videos. And yeah, try it out, enjoy it, And don't be afraid of making mistakes. That's completely fine. Even for me as an advanced artist, I sometimes make mistakes. I sometimes need a remove or erase few lines and redraw them. This is completely fine. If you are advanced or a beginner, it doesn't mean that the first line you put, it needs to be the final. No, actually you keep adjusting until your shape looks nice and looks realistic, and this is how it works. Yeah, so try it out, enjoy, and thank you very much for watching again, and see you in the next session. Bye bye.